What is good, everybody? What is good? Chat, Stilly Matt, Southeast Dago 619. What's up, y'all? Good to see y'all. Per usual. Last bye week, y'all. No more bye weeks. No more Buckeye-less weekends for us. So that's a beautiful thing. But we got to sit around and watch a lot of college football. That was edge of your seat type stuff and some messiness, a lot of turnovers, and turnovers was like the big thing this weekend. If y'all watching the games, it's crazy. And we're gonna talk about that. But Funky, what's good, brother, man? Good to be back on this good Sunday.
What's up, B Moses? It's a beautiful Sunday, or feeling a lot better this Sunday than I did last Sunday because I realized the only thing stopping Michigan from losing was their bye week. So anytime I get to see them play Saturday, it's always a glorious Saturday, especially in 2024. Because I mean they never fail to amaze me with how bad they get, B Moses. Because I mean that was the worst game I've seen them play all year, and it was the happiest I've been all year. So what a great Saturday, and everything seemed to go right that Saturday. So I'm glad to be here today on a happy Sunday.
Indeed, yeah. And hey, my little prediction I've been hitting y'all over the head with the past few weeks. Can anybody tell me in the chat what my prediction about Michigan has been? Before I say it, you got 3 seconds. Three, two. Anybody get it? Anybody? Nope. Y'all too slow. My prediction was a 5-game losing streak for Scum since they lost to who they lost Washington. Right? We're getting closer, y'all. Listen, it's all up to Sparty. They got Sparty this Saturday, who just beat a solid Iowa team. Ooh boy, because that was the one game I was like, man, Sparty, man, they're too messy. They're not gonna beat Scum at the Big Blouse. But it looks like if they can calm the turnovers down, Sparty can really pop them, man, because they're going to lose at Oregon. I'm sorry, at home against Oregon, and they're going to lose at Indiana. Those are the next games after Sparty. Those are certified L's. Okay, so if Sparty can take care of business, then that will complete my prediction for the 5-game losing streak. And shoot, low key, if Scum keep messing around and some of these players opt out, like we keep hearing rumors from their message boards, they might mess around and lose to the Nerd Western Wildcats, which would then be a 7-game winning streak because they're gonna get baptized here in Columbus, and get 60 dropped on them for all the pain and suffering from the cheating scandal and all the talking they've been doing. But anyway, just wanted to say that. Let's go Sparty. But yeah. What you think, Funky? You think Sparty can knock out Scum next week?
Yeah, I mean absolutely. I mean Sparty just played their best game of football last week versus Iowa. That's the best I've seen them play. Sorry, am I cutting out?
Yeah, a little bit, but you good. Keep rolling.
Okay, yeah. That was their best game they've played all year versus Iowa. And they're the hot team right now. And we always talk about teams playing good and playing bad, and when you want to play a team or when you not want to play a team. And right now, you do not want to play Michigan State. They're they're playing their best football, and their young quarterback is really coming develop, and he's learning not to turn the ball over. Because that was their big issues. I mean, they're able to move the ball all year. He just couldn't stop turning the ball over. And last week, he showed very promising stuff. And he kept the ball in hands versus a really, really good and talented Iowa defense that, as we know, they're very disciplined. And usually that's a game where Iowa would win and beat Michigan State. But hey, this year was different. Michigan State beat them pretty handily. Wasn't too close. And I'm excited for that game. The line opened up at 7.5. And I mean,
Okay.
who knows if Michigan will score 7.5 points? So that's an interesting line for me. But it's the whole thing about the freaking out on the message boards and the Michigan blogs and these beat writers really making Michigan fans really freak out that players are going to opt out, and talking about how bad the leadership's been and even the morale from the big guys up there. That reminded me of after they played Arkansas State. And I reported on here that I thought Colson Loveland would probably play the next week versus USC, because even though he went down with an injury in that Arkansas State game, he was like out partying all night till like 4 a.m. in Ann Arbor. So I was like, oh, he must be healthy enough to play. But
Right.
he ended up not playing versus USC. And I was like, that's interesting. And that really shows his lack of care, his lack of stuff. And that must be a more than just him thing. That seems to be a whole team thing at this point, B. Moses. Because you're not out late going out after a horrible game versus Arkansas State the week of USC. You're just not doing that, especially if you're the star player. You'll know it'll be posted on social media. You know it's a bad look, so you just don't do it. But he did, and with Will Johnson now, like he sat out of the game. It seems like, or elaborated his injury, or just didn't want to play, or who knows what was really happening with him. But
Right.
that's concerning. That is, I mean, but for him it makes sense though, because every week it seems like his draft stock is falling and falling and falling, because they have no stallions anymore. So it's pretty telling.
Very telling. Let me read y'all to that point. This is one of their, insiders on one of their boards said, or you might see a lot of guys go through the motions from here on out. Heard the bus ride to the airport yesterday was interesting in the utter glazed over look most of the players had on their faces. A few of the leaders were trying to rally their teammates, but several leaders seemed to be among the walking zombie crowd, and I can't blame them, in parentheses. If they lose to MSU, you will likely see the quote, it has quotes in it, injury report grow significantly as players start making business decisions. So, listen,
That's embarrassing.
I'm not taking that just as random message board fodder. We know they ducked us in 2020. It's not like they're not capable of just doing that. And I'm just glad there is no COVID excuse this year for them to opt out of the game, because even their fans are starting to get out in front of it. Like some of my scum buddies on social media, they're coming out making posts. Oh, we suck. And, the suck guys are going to kick our teeth in. And, we're doomed. We told y'all sucked. We knew you were going to suck. This is not some new revelation. We told y'all. And again, I said 8-4 at the beginning of the season. I was off. Clearly, I was wrong. And I was being charitable. But they're trying to get out in front of it by basically declaring they suck and that they're going to lose to try to lighten the pain. But nah, bruh. It's gonna be brutal going down this stretch and coming into Columbus, and he's fired up, pissed off. Buckeyes are going to do to you on senior day. Yeah, I can't wait. But in between time, it's very enjoyable to see them suffer. And we could talk about on the field, man. We could talk about on the field because it's funny. You talking about Jack Tuttle? Their fans probably deleted a lot of their posts. Remember, look, I had a homeboy on Facebook at halftime of the Washington game talking about, ladies and gentlemen, I think we found our quarterback, talking about Tuttle. Like, are you serious right now? So it's just funny. Some of them, still had hope. And we sitting there thinking like, no, you're still not good. So anyway, did you get to watch the full game, Funky? And I'll let you jump in first and kind of give me your thoughts of what you saw on the field with Illinois, and then I can follow up.
Yeah, no, I did get to watch the full game. I was in a 7-hour bus ride, but back for I was 7 hour back bus ride after a race. So I sat down on my phone and I was able to get the Wi-Fi go working, and the Illinois, from what thing I got out of that game was, one, Illinois isn't good. Illinois has clear issues, especially at quarterback. Their defense isn't good. Their defense clearly isn't good. Purdue scored, was it 52 points on them last week?
That was
or
crazy.
Something. It was something absurd like that.
Yes.
So, I mean, their defense clearly is not good. And I still wasn't very impressed with it versus Michigan. But, man, once you can just hone in on the run on Michigan, they're done. The second Tuttle tried to do anything outside of hand the ball off or throw a little 2-yard thing to Colston Loveland, it was trouble. He tried to run, try to scramble, and he fumbled, or he would almost fumble or get 1 or 2 yards, or he'll try to throw it and miss his receiver by like literally 20 yards over his head or way behind him. It was embarrassing to watch. I just can't imagine how much worse Michigan could get, because all offseason, all we were being told was their quarterback's great. They're just going to pound the run. They're going to smash football, and where they're going to smash it. And Donovan Edwards is so good. But none of that's true. And the biggest thing I hear from Michigan fans now is the running back rotations suck. Why aren't we playing Mullings? Stop playing Edwards. Well, we got to keep playing Mullings. Well, who's in charge of the running back rotations at Michigan? B. Moses.
You said were the running back rotations?
Yeah, who's in charge of it?
The crappiest, most overrated, most money stealingest running back coach in Ohio State history.
Oh yeah, Coach Alford. The same things Michigan fans were complaining about was the same exact thing Ohio State fans were complaining about this whole entire time. Running back rotations are bad, and it's making the offensive line look bad. I generally don't think Michigan's offensive line is bad. I just think they're getting set up for failure. So it's just, you can't succeed in that kind of offense. And all Michigan fans can say all they can do is blame the quarterback for it, which for me is ridiculous. There's glaring holes over the quarterback. When your wide receiver 1 is Samaje Morgan, that is an issue. Right. That is an issue. Seriously, that's a huge issue. And if they think it's going to get better next year, they're delusional, because they're losing everybody. They're literally losing everybody again next year. It's absurd. They're losing 3 offensive linemen, 2 running backs, 3 first-round defensive linemen, 1 of the best cornerbacks in the league. I think that's all, actually. But that's still a lot, and they're losing their starting quarterback, who's clearly the best of all of them, and that's not saying much. So, they're in trouble, and that's not including any sanctions or any possible stuff that could hinder their performance. This is just solely off what is going to happen next year. And we'll say a $3 million transfer quarterback is not going to help, because let's just say if you put Will Howard on this Michigan team, they are not better. They probably have the same record. If you put Dylan Gabriel on this Michigan team, they're not winning games. They just don't have the infrastructure around it. And Coach Sharon Moore was born on home plate. He was born after hitting a grand slam home run, and now he's got sent back to the dungeon, really, because they're comparing him to whatever. I sound so young now. Or the old Michigan coach back in 2014, what's his name? Ron Moore. What? Oh my God, that's so embarrassing. What's his name? Rich Rod. Okay.
Rich Rod. Ron Moore's you might be thinking about Ron English, their defensive coordinator. I don't know, but
they're comparing him to Rich Rod. So I'm like, wow, what a fall from grace. I remember being told this is the savior of Michigan football, and he's the one who really turned the tide in this rivalry, and now he's going to continue help recruiting, and they're going to be better than ever next year and win everything. And wow, this is going to, I'm excited for the next 5 years. No matter what sanctions happen, even though we know there's going to be sanctions, even if there wasn't, they're not beating Ohio State for the next 4 years, just solely off talent, coaching, and all of their jokes going around the program.
Yeah, and just a little nugget before I want to respond to one of these comments in the chat. But before I do, Jaden Davis is gone, y'all. I think him and his family are prepping. They're prepping the waters to bang out and leave. I think he's gone because I keep hearing fans say, "Where's Jaden Davis? Play Jaden Davis. It's just a quarterback. If we had a quarterback, we'd be all right," which is goofy, but Jaden Davis ain't playing, and I don't think he's ever going to take a meaningful snap at Michigan. I think he's gone. I think he's gone even before the sanctions hit, and the sanctions going to hit, and we're going to talk about that too. But real quick, listen, Stack Jr., this is nothing personal against you, okay, what I'm about to say. I'm sure you're a nice guy or gal. I would sit down and have a drink with you, chop it up, talk football. I'm sure you're a great person. However, this comment represents one of the comments that most peeves me from fans. Okay, when fans say this, listen, me, Funky, Stilly Matt, Southeast Dago, Stack Jr., none of us are suiting up to go play for the Ohio State Buckeyes on Saturdays. Nothing we say on this podcast or on our message board is going to affect the focus of the team. So when you say we have our own issues, okay, fine. Every team has issues. I don't even know how that's really a correlation compared to scum, because there's issues that elite teams have and there's issues that crap teams have. So that comparison in itself is flawed. But the notion that we need to focus on beating Nebraska this week, so we can't say nothing bad about scum, is illogical and it's ridiculous. Again, this is not a personal attack. This is not about you, Stack Jr., but this comment represents something that peeves me because it's so ridiculous. All right. We are going to continue to make fun of them. We're going to continue to talk about them when necessary. If they make the news, if they lose, it's going to happen. So this notion that if we do, we need to focus on Nebraska. No, the team needs to focus on Nebraska. They're the ones that are playing Saturday. Do you understand? Thank you. Off my soapbox. Anything to say about that, Funky?
I mean, all I got to say is I got a helmet ready to go and play Saturday if the Buckeyes need me, B. Moses. So I'm ready to go.
Might need a kicker.
Yeah, look, can't do that. Actually, they would not want. That'd be the last job I can do. Put me at like
last for me too. I would be trash.
Yeah, I'd be horrible. Yeah. Oh Lord.
Yeah, but anyway, I wanted to just to rant about that because this is a pet peeve of mine, man. Oh, thank you, Ken Taco Hut. Yeah, the man cave is coming along. But anyway, so yeah, getting back to the on-field play. So yes, Illinois, they, look, as much as we get on Burt Bielema, he's kind of a, DBAG, but he's been proven to be a good coach. He's a good coach, okay? And they did a good job, versus scum. That fake punt they did was timely. It was a backbreaker. It was perfectly executed. They ran the ball down scum's throat, and they got after Tuttle. I mean, it was a great overall game plan for them. And it just continued to expose more issues that scum has. Because Tuttle, he made a couple throws. I was like, okay, that was a decent throw, but then he'll turn right back around and just have a terrible read and throw it right to an Illinois defender. By the way, what did y'all think about their uniforms? Tell me in the chat. Illinois, I kind of like their helmet. I like the helmet, the craftsmanship. It was creative. The rest of the uniform is trash to me. I didn't really care for it, but I did like the helmet. What you think, Funk?
I personally was a fan. I mean, I watched a little thing I saw it on Twitter about how it took like hours and hours to make each helmet, and Illinois did their own like side quest of like showing the creation of the helmets. I thought it was fire. I was like, wow, those helmets look legit. And I mean, it really seemed to me that Illinois really, really, really cared about this game. They really prioritized it in their schedule, and which is the best part about Michigan really this year is all these teams are coming for their head because they know they're not that good, but they're also going to get everyone's best foot forward. And that's what we saw. Illinois, they're pulling out the fake punts. They clearly were playing with a little bit extra emotion. They wear the special uniforms. The fans stormed the field, which was kind of ridiculous, but I was laughing. So I could really care less, but I thought it was hysterical. It was whatever, just about how bad Michigan is. But I mean, I thought the jerseys were fire, but I really just thought that underlined how much Illinois actually really cared for that game, and I can appreciate that because if you when Michigan's your Super Bowl, then I'm rooting for you too, and I want you to beat them. So that's going to be pretty much. I hope every team treats Michigan like that, and I hope Ohio State doesn't lose focus like that because we can't. I mean, we just whatever. We don't want to talk about them losing to Michigan, but I mean, if we don't beat them by 50 this year, then something must have gone wrong. So yeah.
Yeah, and real quick, this might be the last thing I say. The comment before this, Stack Junior, you said, you know what I mean. You give me a break, B. Moses. You know what I mean. No, I don't know what you mean. If you didn't mean what you said about how we need to focus on Nebraska and not talk about Michigan, like what other logical explanation do you have for me, sir or ma'am? And then your comment here, I just don't like the talk around Michigan game given what has happened. I have also watched a lot more Buckeye football than B. Moses have seen. Michigan ruined OSU season before. First of all, are you sure about that? Now I'm not a spring chicken. I'm not going to give my age, but I'm not a spring chicken. I'm not in my 20s. So I think I've seen a lot more Buckeye football than you think I have. I lived through the Cooper era. My brain was fully developed according to science during the Cooper era. I was not a spring chicken then either. So that's another hint. The point is, I've seen us lose this game as well. So my take and my perspective doesn't lack any experience with losing the game or understanding how critical it is, to win this game in this rivalry. All right. So that's that as well. But regardless, you have to explain to me logically how anything we say on this podcast affects the on the field play. That is my main point. And again, I got love for you, brother or sister. I don't know who you are. This is not personal. It's just the notion. It's something I see from a sprinkle of fans that I think I'm not the only one who's annoyed by, because it just doesn't make sense. So that's it. All right. So anyway, so we could kind of move on from Scum for real, because honestly, I really don't have much else to say about them. We see it. We know it. We know it's a crashing and burning plane right now that's going down. And I'm just hoping Sparty can handle business next week, because if they do, boom, 5-game losing streak. And then hopefully that will push their administration to stop being ridiculous and delaying the inevitable, which is the NCAA hammer. Again, y'all, reminder, it's November 26th, I believe, is the 90th day of when the NOA was submitted to them. They had 90 days to respond. November 26th, which is a Monday, I believe, is the 90th day. And then they have like a 30-day period where I don't know how to explain it, but they still have 30 more days before any sanctions could be handed down, unless they come out between now and then and settle and basically say, hey, you know what? We're going to take our medicine, whatever. We're done. We're done fighting. A loss to Sparty, their rival, I think could really potentially shake that loose. And that's why the type of the video was saying 1 week closer, theoretically and maybe literally, depending on what happens. You got anything on that, Funk?
Yeah, I mean, it's a waiting game at this point, and that's the thing. And I like thinking that, and I like thinking, if Michigan loses one more game, they're actually going to take action and self-impose or do something. But in reality, when we saw what Ohio State did in 2011, they didn't. They went 6-6 and still played in the Gator Bowl versus whatever, and got our teeth kicked in. So do we really think Michigan would be smart enough to try to jump ahead of it? Or do they think, no, let's just write out the season and whatever happens, we'll deal with that in the future? And I mean, that's a real thing. Cause it's like, and also, how much is the NCAA really going to take it seriously if they self-impose after losing 5-6 games? Like, do they really lose their 5th game of the season? Would it be no? It'd be their 4th game of the season versus Michigan State, and they see Oregon and Ohio State down the barrel in their schedule. You really think, like, I don't know, like, how much would the NCAA actually take that seriously, and would that even count as jumping ahead of it, or is because that's also them admitting to all this, B. Moses. So I don't know. It's a thing that's like deeper than just like self-imposing, because if they self-impose, that means they're all their fans are going to freak the heck out, because they're going to think that everything's gone, because them self-imposing would be admitting that, hey, bad stuff's going to happen. So maybe delaying it is even better. So 35 days until they have to respond, so they'll probably respond in about 30, because they rarely in cases do they wait until the last day. So like about 30 days, and then the committee of infractions meet B. Moses, and then they decide the punishment there after talking to or responding to responding to the response, and because they technically have to take it all into account, and it usually takes around 30 days from my research. But again, this is there's no precedent to this case, really. It's larger and bigger than pretty much any case the NCAA has dealt with, and in my lifetime, and sure other people's lifetimes. So it'll be interesting to really see how the NCAA handles this. But what I do know is that they're taking this really seriously. and it's kind of got swept under the rug. It's during the year and people have really forgotten about it. But no, it's just as big of a deal as it was before. And we still think it's going to be the same exact punishments that we've been saying for months and months. So, and so far we've been spot on all the right of the way. And the only thing that's making people not believe anymore is just the fact that its time is passing. But hey, we'll see. That's all. We'll see what happens. And that's the real thing. We'll see in the next really 60 days. And we've been right every step of the way. And I think we're going to be right again. So, yeah.
Yeah. No, I think you're correct on the Committee on Infractions. I think that's the 30 days is basically hearing what are basically interacting with Michigan's response and considering and all that other stuff. That's what I think the bylaws have that 30-day period for. The point is, it's coming. Scum fans they think it's not, it hasn't happened yet. So it's not, it's coming. We're going to keep reminding you of that. It's on the books. There's a timeline. This ain't just floating out there like randomly. No, it's happening. It's on its way. So, a terrible season for them plus a hammer is just going to be beautiful. What will be even more beautiful is for Ohio State to handle business on the field and position themselves, and not only after beating Scum, hopefully Big Ten title and a playoff berth in a national title. But let's slide into some different matchups. I see y'all talking about Bama in the chat. I did want to touch on Indiana real quick with Indiana. I do think Indiana's a very good team. I think they're well coached. I think they have good game planning, good play calling. They play clean. There's no one on their team that's scary to me. Let me give you some perspective on how I feel about them. So I respect them. And I think they're a very good team. I think that if they were in the SEC, they'd probably be in the top 10. You know how that is with the goofiness and the favoritism and the bias. But Ohio State, as long as Ohio State, and it's at home, it's at the shoe, thankfully, as long as they come out and play hard and execute and do what they should do and not take them lightly, which is going to be very hard to take a maybe undefeated team in the shoe lightly, maybe even a top 10 team by then. Who knows? But I think we're better than them. We just have to play like it. But I do respect Indiana. They're a very good team, and they just dismantled Nebraska yesterday, and it wasn't even close. And Raiola, he has talent. We can see the talent, but he showed the true freshman, mistakes. He showed the staring down receivers. He showed the bad reads and the panicking and holding on to the ball too long and all those things. So we need to get after them, this week coming off of this loss, and then them getting beat up like they did. We need to just pummel them. Now, what's funny is if we don't beat them as bad as Indiana did, our fans are going to be, see, we suck. Indiana's better, blah, 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 blah. When maybe our starters might be sitting in the floor. I don't know how the game's going to go, but just prepare yourself for that if that's the case. But any thoughts on Indiana before we move on to BAMA, all the rest of the country?
Yeah, I mean, the one thought about Indiana I'll have is about their ranking. The ranking is I think it's almost embarrassing that people can even release that. Like having them 13th below all these other teams, it's just I don't even truly understand. But the one way I'll put it is the SEC does this thing where all their beat writers will inflate all their other rankings by ranking other teams way, way too high. For example, Vanderbilt. The fact that Vanderbilt is ranked, I know people like, it's Vandy ranked, like, wow, that's great. No, they shouldn't be ranked. They shouldn't be anywhere near the rankings. Let's go through their schedule, B. Moses, and I'll tell you, and I'll give you 3 teams that should be ranked ahead of them that aren't ranked. So Vanderbilt, they won in Virginia, or they won at home versus Virginia Tech in overtime. Then they beat the crap out of a team called Alcorn State. So I'm guessing an FCS school. Then they go at Georgia State and lose to Georgia State. They lost to Georgia State. Then they lose to Missouri. Then they beat Alabama. Then they sneak by Kentucky, win by 7 points. A Kentucky team that's really bad this year, a really poor Kentucky team. And then this week they play Ball State, and they barely beat Ball State. They won 14-24, but it was 14-14 going into the fourth quarter. So that was a hell game for them. That was a game that they really had no business being that close ever, but somehow they get moved up in the rankings. But a team like now I'm really blanking out. But really, the main team is what I'm talking about is Duke. The fact that Duke's not ranked ahead of them, Duke's like 5-1, and they're still unranked. But the reason why they did that is because now it makes Alabama's loss look a little better, and then it makes everyone else's loss or wins look a little better, and that could help inflate them. Like Tennessee is a master at beating up on these bad teams, B. Moses, and still being ranked high. Like Tennessee's not a good team, but we only think Tennessee's a good team now because they beat Bama. But in the reality, Bama's not good. That's the reality. They're not good. They play really, really well in the first half.
Especially defensively, yeah.
Yeah, they played extremely, extremely well versus Georgia in the first half. Like perfect. But since that first half of the Georgia game, they've been horrible. Literally horrible. They're getting owned. Alabama should have like multiple losses right now to South Carolina. Well, they do have multiple losses, but they really should have lost that South Carolina game. I do not know how they escaped that. But they just keep it. I mean, but then Alabama's rankings inflated. Tennessee's rankings inflated. Pretty much every single team in the SEC, in my opinion, their ranking is heavily inflated. Besides for really, I would say LSU and Georgia and Texas, because I feel like LSU's ranking is appropriate just because I mean they're beating these SEC teams, but they somehow lost to 3 and 4 USC. But then Georgia and Texas are clearly 2 of the 4 best teams in the nation. So and I think Georgia, Texas, Ohio State, Oregon are all teams that can win national title. The rest are kind of just playing for a participation trophy. So
yeah, no, I agree. I think it definitely boils down to that. I think this weekend also showed just a reminder to especially Buckeye fans, since that is what we specialize in here, is more perspective and looking at the rest of the country. What was the game? Now it's almost a blur now. Yes, it was Texas and Georgia. That's the game where they combined to have 7 turnovers, Funky? Was that the game?
seven turnovers, and each team had less than 300 yards of total offense.
Yes. And so just imagine putting Will Howard and Ohio State into that situation. I mean, look, just see what Ewers and Carson Beck did. Carson Beck was, they got the win. But imagine Will Howard coming out like that, throwing 2. What did he throw? 2 or 3 picks in the first half?
I'm not
forgetting.
Sure.
2, at least 2.
It was at least 2, yeah. At least
yes,
2.
Ewers definitely struggled. I missed Chat CT2 in the chat. Listen, I'm not saying these guys are trash. Everybody's trash. I'm saying one thing you have to do, in my opinion, when you're judging your own team, is you have to judge them versus the landscape as well. Okay. So, what does your team look like in comparison to what else is going on, like their peers in the landscape? Our peers are Texas, Georgia, Oregon, right? Mm-hmm. So, we lost to Oregon by 1 on the road in a barn burner. Hopefully we'll get a rematch. But looking at these other teams and, we just so disappointed and depressed and downtrodden about how our team looks in a 1-point loss on the road. And you see these other teams and how their quarterbacks are performing and how they're performing in general, and the sloppiness and the lack of defense and giving up big plays. It just gives you perspective. Does that mean, hear me, because I know some of y'all only like to hear certain things. Does that mean Jim Knowles doesn't need to get better? No. Does it mean that we don't need to play better? No. Ohio State needs to do what they need to do to get better. I'm just saying, some of y'all who are freaking out watching football this weekend should have given you some perspective on the big picture of the landscape and how much football is left to be played. Like, for real. So I just wanted to say that. You want to jump in, Funk?
Yeah, I have 2 things to say. One, I'll talk about just in general power rankings that people gave, or what Ohio State fans say. Because at first it was, we're not beating Georgia. Like, Georgia's better than us. They have Carson Beck, blah blah blah. And then they lose to Alabama, and everyone, or at least on the Ohio State side, was, oh no, Alabama's the best. They're back. They see how much offense they have in defense. They're the best team in the country. And then next, it's Texas. Texas is clearly the best team in the nation. They're gonna win it all, and blah blah. And now it's back to Georgia. So maybe let's take a step back and realize, hey, maybe it's not any of these teams. Maybe these teams are all just tier 1 and they're all just as good as each other. Texas is not a bad team. I think I said the last week on this podcast that they're going to lose this week to Georgia, and they're all going to lose. Every team's going to lose. It's a new era of college football. So we're going to have to get used to teams losing and not saying they're frauds and they're horrible and they're bad. Because guess what?
Yeah.
Teams are going to lose. And what Ohio State, I mean, I would bet a lot of money that one of Ohio State, Georgia, or Texas win a national title this year. I feel like that. The odds on that would probably be really good, or really are pretty favorable. But like one of those teams are probably going to win a national title this year. I don't think Oregon's going to win a national title, and I know Oregon's ranked number 1 in the AP poll right now. B Moses, and everyone's now saying Oregon's the best team in the nation and all that stuff. But hey, I'll go out on a limb and we're at bookmark it. They're not going to win a natty this year. It's going to be one of those 3 teams, and each one of our fan bases, Georgia, Ohio State, Texas, have all lost a game early this year in the first 7 weeks, 7 games. And we've all been called frauds and pretenders, and we're all not good. But in reality, one of us are going to come up top, because that's college football now. You're going to lose once, you might even lose twice, and you're still going to have a really good chance of winning a national title. I don't remember the last time there's been a 2-loss national title. I'm not sure if there's ever been a 2-loss national title winner, but it's going to happen in the next 4 or 5 years. I can almost guarantee that, because in the grand scheme of things, if Ohio State goes into Penn State, B Moses, and they lose the exact same way that they lose to Oregon, they turn the ball over twice, they give up explosive plays, they drive late, and they can't get stuff late. Like, let's say the exact same way. Is that really going to make us look at Ohio State differently? For me, it wouldn't. I know, and again, losing would suck, and all that stuff would suck. But at the end of the day, it's if we go 10-2 and we're going into the playoffs, and then we play our best football in the playoffs, this will have that you can't convince me out of that Ohio State team is still not good enough to win a national title. If that makes sense, B Moses. Because if you lose by 1 at Penn State and lose by 1, sorry, I just read, excuse me, what the quack, you listen here, funky buck. Sorry, I'm not sure.
Yeah, Darth Ducky is clowning in the chat, but go ahead.
That was funny. Okay. But I mean, but still, I mean, there's going to be, if Ohio State goes 10-2 and loses those 2 close games, that's still not, I'm still going to be very confident going into the playoffs. Because I know if those games are played at a neutral site, which they will be in the playoffs, then we'll be fine. Like, we would have won those games. So my only focus is that we get to the playoffs playing good football and we play good in the playoffs. Because also at the end of the day, if we beat Penn State, beat Oregon, but lose in heartbreaking fashion in the semifinals, our fans are going to say the world's burning. So all my focus is to get to playoffs and play our best football in the playoffs. But if we lose some heartbreakers in the regular season, it really doesn't matter anymore. It truly, truly doesn't, unless it's versus Michigan. But I'm not sure what else is going to say besides that. Besides for Will Howard would be the best quarterback in the SEC, and he's one of the best quarterbacks in the nation. So those haters have to be silent or quiet now. So I'll let you go now, B Moses.
Yeah, no, that's good, and I'm just laughing. I'm looking at the chat, listening to you. It's just hilarious, man. Like, I agree with you. Listen to what Funky is saying, y'all, because I think as fans, we have to wrap our minds around this new college football. Like, we have it. We're literally we're living it right now, week to week. We haven't experienced a 12-team playoff yet. All we know is the 14 playoff. So it's almost like our minds are just conditioned to freak out after a loss because of the 14 playoff, or even worse, the BCS. So it's a different ball game. Again, that doesn't mean it's cool to lose, but it's a different ball game. So I definitely agree with that. There's no team. I've seen every team play. And speaking of Texas, somebody said Texas was overrated. In this landscape, I think Texas is a good team. I don't think they're like oh my God, a scary, crazy, they're just outstanding all-time team. Not even close. I don't think there is any. Well, let me hesitate, because I want this season to finish, because every season doesn't start out with a team coming out the gate looking like their all-time great team. Even the 2014 team did not come out the gate looking like an all-time great team.
Same with LSU.
Yeah, exactly. The 2002 Ohio State team did not. Like, I'll wait for the books to be written, for the chapters to be completed before I speak too soon. But the point is, as of right now, Texas, what I kept saying is I want to see them actually play a good offense, because all the other teams gave up a ton of yards and points when they played good offenses, including Oregon. Okay, because people want to talk about Ohio State's D is trash and they're a fraud. Well, that's cool. Well, so is Oregon's, because they gave up, 30 yards less? They almost gave up 500 yards of offense too in a 1-point win. So, you know what I'm saying? This is like the perspective. Does that mean we don't need to get better on defense? No. I'm saying this for y'all goofies out there who want to just put words in my mouth. Nose needs to be better. The point is, ain't no team out there that's just like, oh my God, scary and we can't beat on a neutral field, especially on a neutral field. Y'all just making it, some of y'all making it seem like that doesn't matter. That matters. We respected playing at Autzen. I know some Oregon fans, they get a little insecure because they only got a 60,000 seat stadium and they just assume we're trying. No, we knew Autzen was a tough place to play just from watching football. And it was, you know what I'm saying? So that's the home field advantage is real. I hope we see Oregon in Indianapolis, Darth Duck, if you're still out there. Because I saw your comment. I thought you were supposed to beat us in a rematch. I guess when you say rematch, you mean the game, following up the game we played in 2021. To me, the rematch is within the season, and that's going to happen in Indy if we can win out and if you guys win out. So that's what I want to see on a neutral field. But anyway, with that said, we can still touch on some of the national stuff, but I did want to talk a little bit about Ohio State, Nebraska before we slide into Kirk and Nevada's show. But anything you wanted to say, Funky?
Yeah, about Ohio State's defense, let's look back. One of the best Ohio State teams, the best Ohio State team I've ever watched personally, it was 2019 Ohio State team. That was the best team I've ever watched, and I will really 2019. Either way, even that was such a good year of college football, and we lost in heartbreaking fashion. But if we look at that game, we can all agree that was an elite Ohio State defense. But how much points did Clemson score in us that game? 1 sec. Sorry, I'm not looking it up just to make sure I get this right.
In 2020 or 2019?
2019. They scored 29 points on us that year. And that was one of the best. And that was on a neutral site field. Versus Clemson. And they scored 29 on our head. And Oregon, what did they score? 33? Was it 33?
Was it 32-31?
Well, you're probably right. Yeah, 32. They scored 32 on us. Clemson scored 29 on us. But that Oregon game, we had to play at Autzen. That's a fast stadium where they didn't have to deal with any crowd noise. We only had to deal with the crowd noise, and they got explosive plays, and we turned the ball over twice. So we can talk all this stuff about how bad our defense played, but in reality, I would argue any day week that our defense played much better than their defense did. Should we play better than their defense? Yes, because we're a way more talented and put together defense compared to Oregon. We just have a lot more talent. We have a lot more draft picks defensively than they do. But I think we played better defensively than they did. Did they make some great plays, especially that defensive tackle was a beast from Michigan State, who I remember was taking visits to Ohio State during his transfer portal that I'm really, really wishing we would have got now. Did he make some great plays? Absolutely. Did he play himself into the top 3 rounds of the NFL draft from that one game? Absolutely. But overall, I think Ohio State played a better defensive game than Oregon did. And I think we'll really see that on a neutral site field, because imagine that's Ohio State offense in a neutral site field versus Oregon, not having to deal with crowd noise, not having those 10 5-yard or whatever. It seemed like 10. Obviously, I'm exaggerating. Those 10 pre-snap penalties that we had, setting us back 5 yards apiece. Once, let's just say that, and I'll also say this. I told you pre-show B Moses this, but I'm going to say it outwardly. Oregon is going to lose a regular season game this year. Their schedule is not even hard. Their schedule is frankly one of the easiest Big Ten schedules I've seen. They're going to lose a game. And there's one that I'm going to go out here and say they're going to lose, and it's going to be at Wisconsin. Wisconsin's playing their best football now they just blew out blew out Rutgers to beat them it seemed like 50-3, and they're going to play at home in their Super Bowl versus Oregon, and Oregon's gonna have to do that 3-hour time zone shift, or I think it's 3 hours, whatever, 2-hour, 3-hour time zone shift from West Coast to East Coast, and they're gonna lose. I'm gonna say that now, and that's gonna be unpopular. And I also thought Purdue was gonna give Oregon a run for their money on Friday night. So, but I'll tell you right now, I think that Wisconsin is going to beat Oregon. And if somehow Oregon escapes that game, then they're going to lose in week 13. And if they don't lose in week 13, then they're eventually going to lose, and they're not going to win a natty. They won't be undefeated and win, because they're not a team that I think can win a natty. They're not the team. I think they're the fourth team right now that I picked to win a natty. B Moses. I think Ohio State, Texas, Georgia, and then Oregon. But so I rambled for a while there. But hey, I'll let you get it now.
No, it's cool. It's cool. And I mean, yeah, we did talk before the show. And I think I think they're going to win out regular season. But if there's a game they could lose, it's at Camp Randall, Wisconsin. I think Illinois just doesn't have enough to beat them, especially at Oregon. Washington, they've lost to them 2 times in a row. DeBoer's not there anymore. I think that's a win for them. And then I think the best chance of them losing before the playoffs is in the Big Ten title game versus Ohio State. So, but yeah, I mean, we'll see, man. This is why we love college football. Upsets, unexpected loss, whatever. Like it's crazy. It's crazy. So, we all have our predictions, and we're all wrong at times. It is what it is. But I'm just saying, from a Buckeye fan's perspective, I don't want to lose, but considering the landscape and where we are, I'm cool with where we are, hoping and believing that we're going to improve and learn from the mistakes in the Oregon game. I'm not complacent, like, oh yeah, nothing needs to be fixed. No, we need to get better. And I'm hoping during this bye week, we learn from that film against Oregon, and we're going to come out and jump all over Nebraska. Nebraska, clearly, we need to pressure Raiola, number one. Whatever Knowles is doing in this bye week, if what we've heard behind the scenes from insiders is true, to where, there's some things that will be changed or tweaked, or we're going to basically see more pressure without getting into too much information. That's what we need. Raiola is going to throw the ball away to you. He's going to make bad reads if you heat him up. So we need to jump all over them in the shoe. Flat out, period. And that's what I expect us to do. I think we'll play much better. Now, real quick, someone was asking about Judkins and how long he's going to be out. The latest report said that he's not expected to miss any time, but he did have a hand injury, which I think, this is not me making excuses, it's just what it is. I think that was a part of why he got stripped. And it's just like, dang, like I know the kid wants to play, but that was one thing I was worried about, is ball security going into that game with his injury. And it looks like it made it a little easier for that D lineman to snatch it from him, which is unfortunate, because that was a huge turnover early in the game, because we just stopped them after we scored. And so whatever, it is what it is. But anyway, lots of football to be played. And I can't wait to see how we come out against Nebraska. I want to see Denzel Burke bounce back, have confidence. And I know some people want to throw him away, like bench him and just send him to the Netherlands. No, I want to see Denzel Burke come out and be good Denzel Burke again. Don't keep peeking in the backfield and get hit with double moves. Be more disciplined and do your job. And I think he can play much better than he did. What you think, Funk?
Yeah, this is my prediction for the game. I think we're going to blow them out, B. Moses. But I think Ohio State fans are still going to complain, because they're going to compare us to Indiana, and they're going to be like, Indiana blew them out by more. Indiana's going to beat us now. This might also age bad. We're not losing to Indiana at home. Buckeyes we rarely lose at home. The only teams that lose us that I can even remember beating us at our home is 2021 Oregon, 2022 Michigan, with a big fat asterisk around that one, and 2018 Oklahoma, or something, like one of those years, Oklahoma. We don't lose at home, and we're especially not going to lose to Indiana. I get they're a good team, and it's a good story, and I have a lot of respect for that head coach, but we're not losing to Indiana, and whatever. So let's stick on Nebraska. We're gonna kick the crap out of Nebraska, B. Moses. They're the freshman quarterback. He'll be good in or next year, junior year, he'll be a good quarterback. I have no doubt about that. But this year, going into the horseshoe, after a bye week, after a loss, betting Ohio State after a loss is a safe bet usually. So I'm gonna ride with my Buckeyes. I think maybe we can get off a little slow just because sometimes that just happens after a bye week. But I think in general, we're going to get it back together. Whatever, like we always do in the third quarter. We're a dominant third quarter team this year, and we're the best team in the nation in the third quarter. And I think we're gonna run away with it and win something like 42-10. But that still won't be enough. And we're still going to be here trying to defend Ohio State Sunday and having to compare us to Indiana. But the thing about Indiana's quarterback is out this week, so it'll be interesting to see if they can. College game day is going to Indiana while they play Washington, so it'll be interesting to see how they look without their starting quarterback. Because I think he's out for this week, but we'll be back next week. I think. I don't really. Yeah.
O'Rourke, right? Is that his name?
I really don't know. I just saw something about him being out. Like
I did see that too. Yeah, I saw the same report that he's supposed to. Basically, they're holding him out so he can be ready for Ohio State. I mean, they didn't say that, but I'm sure that's what they're doing. Like that's for precaution. Mickey, real quick, man, you always hold it down. I appreciate you. Thank you for the 1999 super chat. Really, really appreciate it. But I think Indiana, they feel like they're confident they can come in the shoe and beat Ohio State. And, they should be. They should have confidence, like, hey, we can do this. We're a good team. But, we need to handle business, and I think we will. I think this loss I agree with Ryan Day saying it's not a wake-up call because I don't think it was to me, saying it's a wake-up call implies that they were asleep. Mm-hmm. It implies that they weren't taking it seriously. I don't agree with that. They lost to a really good team on the
number
road
one team in the nation.
Point.
Yeah, the number one team.
That's what happened. It wasn't. It's a wake up call. No, it wasn't a wake up call. I agree with that. So I think this team knows what they need to do. They came up short. They made some crucial mistakes that cost them the game, and still had a chance to win. And so, start with Nebraska. We need to jump all over them, handle business, take our frustration out on them, and then obviously get loaded up for a top 5 matchup on the road versus Penn State, who I watched him play last week, man. And I'm not downplaying Penn State, but man, they really lack weapons, man. Number 44, their tight end is like their only real weapon. Julian Fleming, he was a great blocker here, but he still can't really catch the ball that well. I mean, anyway, it should be fun to go there on the road, not at night.
Thank God.
And hopefully come out with a W. And we know Tui Maloa is going to have a great game because he always does against Penn State. That's the one game he gets off on. So anyway, but we unless there's anything else, I feel like I'm forgetting something. There was a point I thought I wanted to make. In the meantime, you want to hop in while I look at this chat?
I think the Ohio State Penn State game will be very interesting. I think Penn State's going to play their best game versus us because, frankly, we're the only game on their schedule. Their schedule is embarrassingly easy. So I really think they're going to give. I think the best the Penn State's going to give us. Same with Oregon. Oregon's schedule's a joke. So obviously they're going to play their best football against us. It's their big night game. This Penn State game, I think Penn State's going to play their best game of football versus us, and it's at Penn State. And I mean, it's going to be. I think it'll be a dogfight, but I think this is the kind of dogfight that Ryan Day wins and that we're going to win because, again, the two things that we lose for the two main reasons why we lost to Oregon. One, turnovers. Can't turn the ball over twice. Doesn't matter. That still could be an issue hypothetically versus Penn State, but we'll see. The second main one is explosive plays. Penn State is one of the worst explosive play teams in the whole entire league, and they've been the same way for the last 3-4 years. So, that's why I don't see a real path to victory for Penn State is because of the explosive plays, B. Moses. Yeah. I just don't think they can do it. But hey, somehow if they do it, then that's how they're going to win. Because that's exactly how Oregon won, and that's the blueprint that beat Ohio State. Because you really can't beat Ohio State if you just really want to go nose for nose, first down for first down with Ohio State. I just don't see how you can win that unless your team has talented like or obviously Bama, Georgia, or not even Bama, but really Georgia, Texas, or sorry, I'm saying just good teams. You know what I mean? Unless you're like a really, really good team, which I don't think Penn State really is, but we'll see. It just, that game always scares me, always gives me a little bit of trauma from that, literally the one time they beat them in my real lifetime watching. But we'll just see. That's all I gotta say. We'll see. It's gonna be, I think Ohio State comes out fiery, and if we don't come out fiery, then we're gonna be in trouble. So I'll say that we can't make the same mistakes we did versus Oregon. We just can't do it. It's those are unacceptable.
And I think we know that. And this is the last thing, the super chat. Thanks, Mike Green. I appreciate you as well, brother. You always come through, man. B-Mo, why is Scum crying like they ain't been trashed before 2018, 2019? Listen, they're ridiculous. They're stupid. They're tone deaf. They're delusional. They have no clue. Yes, they've been talking as if they just been good for the last 20 years. You have not. Okay, you're a fraud because the last 3 years that you actually did, play, supposedly you were at an elite level on elite stages. We knew you had a cheating operation going on. Just look at the 3 years while you were cheating and where you were before that and where you are now. It's clear and obvious. So yeah, bro, they're silly, and it's like they're having this, oh my God, I can't believe, we're this bad. Like, dude, we told you were going to be this bad. Like, everyone can see it but you. So I'm enjoying it. I'm going to continue to enjoy it down to the last second, but we're going to go ahead and hop off, y'all. We got Kirk and Nevada. Make sure y'all tune into their show. And listen, one last thing. If you have not subscribed to BuckeyeScoop.com, go do it. Excellent board. I've been on all the boards out there. I've seen them all. This is the best one for inside info, insight before and after the game, breakdowns, nuggets, and just a really, really good community, especially compared to a lot of the other communities I've seen. I'm just telling you. But anyway, I'll holler at y'all next Sunday, hopefully after a big Ohio State victory. Appreciate y'all to chat. Peace.
Go Bucks.